So currently in psychology, we're studying obedience, and the situational variable that I was given was uniform. So I want you to think, what does a uniform mean to you? When asked this question, many people say that it's a symbol of power and authority, especially if you have a role in society that gives you influence over other people, like a policeman, for example. It also gives you a sense of belonging because other people like you are wearing it. So Milner wanted to see if wearing a uniform actually changed levels of obedience from other people. So the clothes in which Milner changed were the clothes that the experimental wore, i.e. their uniform, and he wanted to see whether they were given a legitimate authority over the participants because they were wearing something more professional. So the way that this was assessed was basically in the original study, the experimenter wore a grey lab coat as a symbol of his authority, which technically is a kind of uniform. But Milgram carried out a variation in which the experimenter was called away because a very inconvenient phone call happened. And this was right at the start of the procedure. So the role was taken over then by an ordinary member of the public, who was played by a Confederate. And this Confederate was wearing everyday clothes rather than a lab coat, so he wasn't wearing a uniform. So you'll probably recall in the old Milner experiment, every time that the recording got an answer wrong, the participant had to administer an electric shock. Well, this time, now the experimenter wasn't wearing that lab coat, that symbol of authority, and that uniform, the obedience rate actually decreased. And compared to location and proximity, it was the lowest of the variations. People were not listening because the experimenter wasn't wearing a uniform. And probably the most interesting thing is that when Milner in his old experiment told these people to administer the full 450 volts, they accepted it, they obeyed, and that was 65% of them. Whereas now, since an ordinary man was talking to them and telling them what to do, it dropped dramatically to 20%. And that just demonstrates the dramatic power of a uniform and what you wear and how much that can get people to obey you. So, the conclusion of the study is that when you are wearing a uniform, you look more professional, you look like you have a role in society, and therefore participants are more likely to obey you. Therefore, uniform actually increases the likelihood of obedience.